online tonight, and from our perspective, we've got a little bit of a frustration with regards to GoToWebinar. It's the webcams are not working. So quite funny, we're having a technology convention and we can't get the webcams working. So it's not on our side, it's a GoToMeeting thing. So what I'd suggest we do today is we're going to have a little bit of a discussion. I'd like to just introduce myself and Kevin, and then I'd like to crack right in. We are going to, if you haven't been on a webinar before, we like them to be as interactive as possible. So, write your questions, interact, ask as many questions as you possibly can. And we really aim to share as much information as we possibly can in terms of where we are. So just a little bit about myself. If you don't know, my name is Scott Picken. I did my first technology programming course when I was 6 years old. For those of you who know what a Commodore 64 is and logo. And my first property project when I was 13. I pretty much spent my entire life trying to marry together technology and property or real estate. And what's exciting now is we're getting to the culmination where for 20 years it felt like this battle where we just consistently walked up a hill and everyone told us why it wasn't possible. And I think now, and I'm going to share with you today, how technology really is starting to digitize and revolutionize the real estate space, and that's for the good of everyone. So I'm a very passionate person, and I'll share with you today some of my passion and my purposes. But I also wanted to welcome my partner online tonight, Kevin Allen. And Kevin, maybe you could just introduce yourself a little bit, considering they can't see you. They might as well know who's the voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Scott, and good evening to everybody online. I partnered up with Scott probably, when was it, 2015, here at Wealth Migrate, and my background's quite varied. I have from pharmacy through to business, and a real passion for real estate as well as technology. And so I've been helping out the team, especially on the Wealth Partner front, and yeah, it's an extremely exciting opportunity, and extremely excited to actually extend this through to the UK, which is really something that we've spoken about for a very long time. So it's really great to be here. As Scott did say, we like these things interactive, so please do put in questions in the chat box in order for us to answer those. If you don't know where that is, it's just in that little dashboard under the tab there. So under the questions tab. So please do put those in, ask questions, chat to us, and let's keep this as interactive as possible. So thanks, Scott. Yeah, over to you.
Cool. We've also got Ken, Arthur, and Lauren online, but I'm going to introduce them later, who are partners on the ground and equally our partners in Dubai. And we've got America and Australia, etc. But let's get into that a little bit later. So let's switch on everyone's brains. It's been a long day. If you want to have high energy, please understand that it is 6 p.m. my time in where the part of the world I'm in. And I've been up since 5:30 and been presenting all day. And so my intent is to bring you high energy, and hopefully if you stay engaged, you'll learn a lot. So the first question that I want to ask you, and I want to engage your brain, is who is Ronald Wayne? So if you can go into the little chat box and let me know, who do you think Ronald Wayne is? One of the more famous people on the planet. Why is he famous? So if you thought this was going to just be one-way communication, hopefully you're going to learn a little bit about ourselves. We like to have fun, and most importantly, we like to be interactive. So who do you think Ronald Wayne is? And I'm going to let the deathly silence come across this webinar. I'm not seeing too much typing. I'm seeing some people saying no idea.
No idea.
Anyone want to venture a guess? The one thing I will say, that when we do an event, the only stupid question is the one unanswered, and again, at the end of the day, it's just an opinion. So I'll take you out of your misery. Someone said Fred Flintstone's father. There is a little, I don't know, Kevin, if you can see the little clue in the picture.
There's a clue. Well done. Someone said something to do with Apple. There's a logo in the background.
So yeah, so I'll take you out of your misery. And really, Robert Wayne is the third shareholder of Apple. And in 1976, he decided that Apple was too risky. And so he sold his 10% stake in Apple for $2,300 that today would now be worth $70 billion. And so really the metaphor for this is that sometimes in life, good opportunities come along and you need to weigh up the pros and cons and make decisions. Now that doesn't, mean that every single story like, Ronald Wayne ends up like that. I'm sure there's plenty where people didn't get involved and, they didn't lose any money and they're quite happy they got their $2,300. But for us, it's the moral of the story. Opportunity comes along, sometimes just once in a life. We fundamentally believe that this is a generational opportunity. And the reason we believe it's a generational opportunity is that the real estate industry and the property, I've got to come up with one word. What am I going to call it now? We're dealing with England and Dubai. I'm going to call it property. The property industry is basically a $13.6 trillion industry. It's one of the biggest industries in the world. In fact, it's the second biggest industry in the world after renewables, or oil and fuels. And what's interesting is it's one of the oldest, most archaic industry, completely inefficient, and really hasn't changed a huge amount over the last couple of decades, let alone the last couple of centuries. And so it is ripe for disruption. And in those spaces where you've got a bunch of investors and property partners and all the different middlemen involved, where it's very inefficient, what you tend to find is that there's massive opportunity. And so we call it the $13 trillion opportunity. And why this is that there's a major forces that are all coming together. You've got the technology disruption, you've got the cultural disruption, and to some extent you've even got the regulatory and the social disruption all coming together. And we'll talk about this more tonight. But there's an article on LinkedIn. If you want to go and look, you can go to my LinkedIn profile, Scott Picken, and you can actually see the $13 trillion disruption and the whole article around it. But ladies and gentlemen, these type of major generational opportunities really only come along once every 20 or 30 years. And really, I fundamentally believe that we all get one generational opportunity. Saying that, though, there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of talk. And how does one know what the difference is between a local company? How does one know what the difference is between a global company? And something more recently, which I find fascinating, and again, I don't have my webcam, otherwise I would show you. But nowadays to make money, all you've got to do is write a white paper. And you're going to create the next global idea, and all you've got to do is have a white paper to prove that you can do it. Having been an entrepreneur since 2004, I know that execution is a lot harder than finding a good idea. And so really, I wanted to share with you a little video that'll give you a bit of a view into our future. Now, this is not all done, but this will give you a view into the future we're wanting to create and the problem we're wanting to solve.
We'd like to introduce you to a revolution unlike any other throughout the history of mankind. This is a wealth revolution, and it's going global. Did you ever think that you'd be able to benefit from the only real, time-honored investment mankind has ever known? Real estate. Real estate investing has only ever been accessible to a small percentage of the world's population. This is no longer the case. The wealth revolution means that wherever you are on your wealth journey, be it taking your first steps or taking off globally, you can join our global community, a community of real estate investors, just like you. The Global Wealth Group is experiencing exponential growth, and wealth has never been this accessible. A truly global wealth revolution. We dream big, and our dream is to impact the lives of 1 billion people. 1 billion people. How will we do this? Through groundbreaking digital platforms that allow investors like you to take part in exciting real estate investment opportunities. These opportunities are waiting for you everywhere, anywhere, worldwide. Now you can invest in real estate with any amount of money, from the comfort of your couch and on your internet device. Introducing our global brand ecosystem, Wealth Create, Wealth Migrate, Wealth University, and the Wealth Movement. WealthCreate.com is the platform for those taking their first steps on the wealth journey. The new investors who earn whilst they learn, using real or virtual currency. Imagine this. Now anyone can own a part of a hospital, a share in their local shopping mall, co-invest in a new and exciting development, or even earn quarterly returns from residential and commercial tenants. You can now stand alongside multi-millionaire investors and earn the same relative amounts. WealthMigrate.com is a platform for those investors who are already soaring, as well as those who seek to join them. You can now own and manage a global portfolio of commercial real estate and do it all online. You'll benefit from the capital growth of your assets and get paid quarterly dividends in first world currencies, whether they be from commercial tenants or the funding of developments. The global dashboard shows all available opportunities, potential investment pledges, and upcoming deals. Passports and visas also become easier to obtain, as well as tax-efficient structures that allow global flexibility. Create the freedom you desire for you and your family. WealthUniversity.org is a video-based e-learning platform for those who want their wealth knowledge to take off. Our research shows that the wealth mindset is the single most important aspect of creating and sustaining wealth. Test your wealth IQ and challenge friends and family to find out theirs. Acquire the thinking, secrets, habits, and proven success strategies used by the world's wealthiest investors, as well as that of our global community, who aren't just talking about it, but are actually creating it. Graduate and change your destiny and your future. WealthMovement.com is the global gathering of our fans and followers in conferences hosted in local cities around the world, inspiring minds to help each other create more sustainable global wealth. The goal, to build a wealthier world together, and together to help reduce the wealth gap between the haves and the have-nots. Gain the latest up-to-the-minute knowledge of technology forecasts, internet finance, exponential thinking, crowdsourcing, co-creation, apps and platforms, global wealth forecasts, and new and exciting investment opportunities. This is your chance to meet your global wealth partners, co-investors, and friends, to be inspired by the world's wealthiest individuals and to learn to think how they do. Let's build a wealthier world together. At the Global Wealth Group, we are pioneering a global wealth revolution. Join us. Let's change the world.
So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a view into our future and what we're trying to create. And I think really what we need to take a couple of steps back here. You know, the world has changed dramatically, and really you've got linear companies and you've got exponential companies. Now, the linear companies that many people have heard of are the likes of Kodak and Blockbuster. What most people don't understand is that Kodak actually invented the digital camera in 1976, and yet they said, no, don't bring it out, it will ruin our company. And they were right. They went bankrupt in 2011. And equally, Blockbuster, you know, could have bought Netflix for pennies on the dollar, and yet didn't, because they said that people would never want to stream stuff at home. And so what's really interesting is that the linear mindset, the local and linear mindset, has completely and fundamentally changed. And there are exponential technologies which are all converging, which are not only disrupting and changing things in a dramatic way, but because they're converging together, the change is happening faster and faster and faster. Now, I don't have time tonight to go into the 6 Ds of disruption. We're going to have one of the world-leading experts at our events in London and in Dubai in terms of, you know, how this disruption is working, and we will be touching on it. I can recommend this as a resource. It's a book by Salim Ishmael. It's one of the best in the world. He's actually one of the faculty members of Singularity University that both Willem van der Post and myself are alumni of. And really it talks about the organizations out there that are completely fundamentally shifting the world. They're not just doing things 1 or 2 times better, they're 10xing it. And there's components that one needs to look for in a company. And there's 2 sides to it. You've got scale and you've got ideas. And, you know, again, tonight I don't want to spend too much time on this. We will spend at the live events, we will spend a lot more time on this, because it's really important to understand, you know, are you involved in an exponential organization? Are you creating an exponential organization? And if you want to invest in a company, is it an exponential organization? And then, you know, and there's many different parts to it, but one of the ones that's most important is, does it have an MTP? Does it have a massive transformative purpose? And that really goes out there to not only solve some of the grand challenges on the planet, but it also helps you grow some of the best teams on the planet, because people now want to have a purposeful impact in their lives. What we really did, you know, many years ago, and having grown up in Africa, is that the wealth gap is in your face. And I'll tell you my personal story when I see you in London next Tuesday, and equally in Dubai the following week. And really for me, my personal story is one that created a lot of pain. And so I went out there and I wanted to really understand, what are the wealthiest people in the world doing? What is different? And I found that 49% of the world's wealth is held in property. And yet only 12.9% of the world's population actually has access to that property. And what I find quite disgusting is that of that 12.9%, less than 1% of people in the Western world will retire wealthy at the age of 65. And so we decided to use technology to help The 99% invest like the top 1%. And that is really what we wanted to do to change it, because fundamentally why the wealth gap is getting worse is that the top 1% are doing things different. They're investing in different things from what the 99% are. And we decided to empower and provide solutions to the 99%. Our vision is to make investing, global real estate investing, as simple as a swipe of a finger, and to do it from as little as $1. Now, people tend to say to us, well, $1 won't change people's lives, and I agree. But what it'll do is it'll change their habits. And if you change their habits, you'll change their financial destiny. And if we do that, we'll go a very long way to solving one of the greatest challenges on the planet, which is the wealth gap. But how did it all come about? Well, the current property system is broken. It is laden with fees. On average, there are 16 different middlemen between the investor and the investment. No one trusts the system. There's very little transparency. These high fees lead to very low returns and ultimately to no alignment, which leads to the results that I've just mentioned. And so we decided to reverse engineer it. We said, why can we not use technology to help investors get access to the best opportunities, not in one country, but in multiple countries, so that they can diversify, and equally help the property suppliers get access to global investors through our marketplace. And so we answered one simple question: how do you make global real estate investing easy? What used to take months, if not years, can now be done in minutes. Through the platform, people can get access to the best quality partners and the best quality opportunities from as little as $1,000 or £1,000. They no longer have the hassles, the management issues, or the complex global tax structures. And what I like most is, one of my friends in Derek and Lee in Dubai, literally said that they can now just lie on their couch and focus on the best returns. If I share with you quickly one of the portfolio, I will go through this in a lot more detail. Anyone can basically show you a PowerPoint, but you're now logged into my actual platform. I can go into my funded investments. I can go through any one of these. I can click on them and get all the different details between the rates, the taxes, and the communication. I can go into my different bank accounts. I no longer have to have English, British, American, Australian, different bank accounts. I can fund my wallet. I can use BitPay as well, which means I can pay in Bitcoin. And then also from a trust perspective, how do I now actually own it? And this is where, for me, it gets exciting. This is a tracking number. It's actually, if you go on Bloomberg, you can actually see that your security is listed. And so if you want to kind of think in the old world regulatory environment, you can go that, because it's in a listed regulated, listed regulated environment. But if you want to go new world, you can click on blockchain. And if you come next week, we'll literally share with you blockchain. Most people have heard of blockchain, but they've never actually physically seen it. And so I'll spend quite a bit more time next week actually taking you through the solution in terms of where we're at and how we can actually do that. I think what's also important is that there are 4 really easy steps. The first one is that you sign up. The second one is that you can look at the different opportunities. So again, we're not a fund to fund. We're not a financial advisor. We help you invest in direct property, and you make the decisions about the investments you want to make. You transact online, and the part I like most is I can manage my entire portfolio in one place. So the question really you've got to ask yourself is, do you want to invest in America? Do you want to invest in England? Do you want to invest in Australia? Do you want to invest in South Africa? And with time, many other countries. And in the past, you had to literally decide to yourself, well, I want to bet the whole farm, and I'm going to have to do a lot of due diligence. It's on one investment. It's the only amount of money I've got. And because of all the inefficiencies of real estate, there's been many different platforms that have come to the fore. And you can see a number of brands that you probably even recognize. But the question I've got is that when you catch Uber, and when I go to England, I don't want to use Uber in England and then use a different service in Dubai, and use a different service in Australia and a different service in America. Because what have I really achieved? Now I've just got a whole bunch of apps where I've got to manage everything in one place. And so we decided to provide the global solution where people could diversify and invest in specifically England, Australia, and America, and manage everything on one platform in terms of where they actually were. It's clearly something that people want. We've now got members from over 100 countries. We've got investors from 40 countries. We've won a number of different awards. At the end of last year, we won the KPMG Global FinTech Top 50. We came in the top 50. 2 things that I think are interesting. We've had more than $62 million go through the platform. And probably the one I'm proudest of is we've got a higher than 70% reinvestment rate. So that's when people invest with more than a 70% probability they reinvest, which means we're obviously doing something right. We've got a world-class due diligence system, and again, on Tuesday night and again on Thursday night, I'll go into this in a lot more detail, where I explain to you how we've brought together decades worth of experience in international real estate investing and how we've married that together with technology, things like blockchain and other technologies, and with time even artificial intelligence and big data and robo-advising, etc. But in simple terms, this helps people know where to invest, when to invest, who to invest with, how to partner, the timing, etc. And ultimately, this provides the systems to help people invest in a smart way. From a board perspective, we've really gone out and we've scoured the planet to find the best and also to find a very balanced board. So on this side, you've got Justin Clark. He's built marketplaces in 18 different countries. Martin Freeman, that's done over 5 fintech companies. Paul Nadera, who I'll talk about a little bit later, he's literally known as Mr. Compliance. He's one of the most respected people in the fintech and crowdfunding space and compliance. Dr. Dolf de Roos, that was the author of Real Estate Riches and one of the most recognized people in international real estate education. Henny Besaidno and Peter Fenstra are 2 very, very successful property people from both Africa and Australasia, having built and created huge wealth through both property development and property investment. And then Lex Cisney and Joyce Koffler are both Americans that specialize in fintech technology exponentials, and equally Joy has actually just joined the board as well, which is really, really exciting. And I think this translates through into some of the results. If you look at it, we now are diversifying and having opportunities in the UK and America and Australia. But just to show you some examples, there's 2 things that I want to show you. We don't kind of just want to go for the mom and pop opportunities that you can buy down the street. We want to buy stuff where it's too big for the small guys and too small for the big guys. And we find there's a sweet spot there where there's great returns. And if you take this portfolio, it was 7 commercial buildings. It was a portfolio of $16 million. We needed to raise just short of $6 million. The projected cash-on-cash returns in dollars was 8.3%. Over a 3-year period, we've paid more than 10%. And you can see the internal rate of return of just short of 16% there over a 5-year period. This building here is paying 11.22. This building here is 8.49. And this building here is 8.29. So it just gives you an example. Now, in the UK, the cash-on-cash returns will be slightly lower, but it doesn't mean that the quality of partner will be any different. And whether, the projected return is a 3% or 30% is irrelevant. It's the accuracy of numbers that is really, really important. And so the question and why we're on this webinar tonight is that we already have a global presence. We're the only platform from a global real estate perspective that has a global presence. But what we're excited about is that we've been building over many, many months and years the experience and the teams on the ground. And so next week we are I lived in London for 9 years. I actually started IPS in London in 2004. I've got a lot of experience in both the UK market and even starting a business in the UK, having done it myself. But what we're really excited about is bringing our partners on board and ultimately, launching a local office in the UK so that we can get even better at building relationships with the best partners on the ground in the UK, and equally driving a very comparable and what we believe very competitive solution for people in the UK to be able to invest in UK property. The week later, we then focusing on the United Arab Emirates in Dubai, and exactly the same thing. I've been to Dubai many times. I actually opened an office in Dubai in 2005. I was there for 2 years. I never helped anyone invest in Dubai, thank goodness. It was only helping expats in Dubai invest out of Dubai. And again, we coming to Dubai specifically with the solution of helping people in Dubai invest into first world markets like England, America, and Australia. So I'll go into those detail, but we're really excited about the on the team, people on the ground that can really grow. Just in terms of some of the importance of why it's important to have people on the ground, we've really grown the company and copied what happened in Salesforce. Now, what's fascinating with Salesforce is that in 1999, a guy called Mark Benioff, there's a great book that I would recommend called Behind the Cloud, and he basically went to all the venture capitalists out there and he said, listen, I've got a great idea. We're going to put CRM, which stands for Customer Relationship Management. We're going to put it in the cloud. We're going to create a system called SaaS, which is Software as a Service. And the venture capitalists literally laughed him out the room. They thought to themselves, well, no one will ever let their information leave their building and put it in the cloud. Well, he went to his investors, his clients, and he said, guys, listen, let's build something together. Let's build something where we can co-create it together. You can be part of the solution. You can help me build a world-class solution from a customer experience perspective. And when we win, we can all win together. And today Salesforce is the 14th biggest technology company in the world and has a very large purposeful impact on the planet. And so when I read this book, I thought to myself, well, there's the solution. Rather than relying on one venture capitalist, let's rather build this from the bottom up. Let's rather build a company built by investors for investors. And so we embarked on our journey to really enable that and make it happen. When you look at technology at large, all these different brands people will recognize, but there's really three things that happen whenever a technology company comes in and disrupts an industry. The first thing is that they cut out the middleman. The second thing is they cut out the costs. And the third thing is they dramatically increase the trust, the transparency, and the accessibility. And when they do those, it doesn't matter what company and which industry is being disrupted, it creates massive value. And so when you look at real estate, and this is a company that people in England probably even know, called Easy Properties. It's started by the same founder as EasyJet, and it really just talks about the value creation. Next door, Airbnb, most people know. And the time it took to become, a $1 billion company. Zoopla, another big one in the UK, Urban Compass, House, and Auction.com. All of them, you can see the speed of value creation, and that's when technology comes in and disrupts a segment of the real estate industry. In terms of the investing side, this really started in America back in 2014. You can see here that a crowdfunding site called Realty Mogul raised $9 million. A month later, another site called Fundrise, actually got a valuation of over $100 million. They raised $31 million. And what's fascinating is that more recently, in the last 6 months, Fundrise have actually gone out and they've said, guys, we don't like the old traditional IPO. We're going to go out and use a new age technology IPO. And they really showed everyone, they said, there's really 4 phases to investing in a technology company. You've got a startup phase, which is a company that no one's ever heard of with no traction. You've got the growth phase, which is where there's already traction, market adoption. Then you've got the scale phase, like Uber and Airbnb, that are still private companies, but you really can't get in unless you know people, friends and family. And then ultimately you've got the IPO. And what they're really saying is that the old traditional way of, by the time it goes to IPO, a lot of the value has been taken off the table. And so they said to their investors, well, you can get involved at the growth phase. And what was interesting, they had more than $93 million pledged in less than 48 hours, which is absolutely fascinating. Now, the question that's interesting for me is there's another way of doing it. In the UK, there's a group called Property Partner. They launched in January 2015. They, at the time, had 6,200 customers, and they'd done about £24 million. And what was interesting is that they actually raised $27 million in venture capital. And you can see there their goal is to be the global stock exchange for property. And their minimum investment was £50. They make money by charging on the rental income, and equally, people have the ability to create a secondary market. And then there was another one called Co-Assets. So it did it an even different way. It actually went onto the listed regulated environment, and it listed on the ASX. And what was fascinating is that they actually were registered at $85 million. That was Singapore dollars, so it's about 50 million US dollars. And what's fascinating again is just looking at their numbers and including low investments from as little as $1,000. But please remember that unless you're an American citizen, you can't invest in Fundrise. Property Partners is just based in the UK, and if Brexit had an impact on the UK property market and you had all your eggs tied up in the UK, well, then you would be directly impacted. And equally, in terms of this one, it's only based really in Singapore and listed on the ASX. And so our challenge to this graph from Fundrise is that, when I catch Uber or I stay in Airbnb, it's the same whether I do it in Johannesburg, London, Singapore, San Francisco, or Shanghai. And they very are much global companies. And yet Fundrise is literally only for American citizens in America. And so we fundamentally believe that if you're going to consider yourself in that growth phase, you need to have market reach. And like I explained to you, we're in already over 100 countries, which is more than half the planet, by the way, and have investors from over 40 different countries. Another thing that's pretty interesting in England is that there's a company called Crowdcube. They've done significant value to the UK ecosystem. I've presented at South by Southwest with the founders of Crowdcube, and what's fascinating is that they're raising money. Really, it's becoming a really kind of proactive and sought after way for entrepreneurs to raise money, because they can go out to their communities and they can really validify a concept, and equally they can build a community at the same time. But this brings us on to something that's literally come about in the last couple of months, and this is ICOs. Now, if you haven't heard of an ICO, they stand for initial coin offerings. I just got off a call with Ismail, that is head of ICO magazine, and he believes that in the near future there'll be something like 10,000 to 100,000 ICOs a year around the world. Now, that's pretty interesting for a concept that many of you on this call have never heard of. And we're going to have not only him, but we're going to have Willem van der Pos talking around exponential technologies, talking around blockchain, talking around ICOs and where the opportunities lie. They talk a lot around our ICOs are literally taking over from VCs, venture capitalists. And what's fascinating for me is that if you look at this research, more money, according to CoinDesk in America, more money has been raised in US token sales during the first 6 months of 2017 than raised through traditional venture capital, which I found absolutely fascinating. And so it's certainly something that people need to look at. And that's why, for many years, we've been building a global real estate marketplace. We've been building it on blockchain. The intention was always to create a cryptocurrency. We spoke about how, Bitcoin, to me, it's lost 20% in the last 48 hours, and it's very volatile. And, the guy, Ishmael from ICO said, it's another crash forward, which is interesting because it's volatile, but it continues to move forward. And we've said for a long time, well, why can't we have a cryptocurrency that is asset-backed by real estate or property? Everyone understands real estate, everyone understands property, they understand the intrinsic value of a brick, and they understand the intrinsic value of a rental income. And why could you not have a cryptocurrency that effectively was backed by real estate? And so we launched Wealthy Coin last Wednesday. It's something we're excited to share more information about next week in London. And really, we believe that this is the future of real estate investing. The other part that's really important for us in a team is that it's all about partnership. And so whenever we try and do something, we want to go and find the best in the world. And a good example of that is David Orban. He actually is a faculty member of Singularity University. And what's interesting is that he really specializes in cryptocurrencies, blockchain, and he's going to be one of the guys that is really going to help us build a world-class solution. We fundamentally believe that there is a good chance of a dot-com boom bust, like happened in the late 99s. And what's interesting is that when there was a boom bust cycle, it didn't necessarily kill the internet. What it did is it killed a bunch of companies that had no fundamentals and no traction. And ultimately, the Alibabas, the Amazons, the Googles, the Salesforces went on to become great companies. And so our philosophy is that the design and the partnership is very, very important. And that's where Scott Myers is actually a gentleman that I met. He's also one of the more highly respected people in the space. And between the two of them, plus their entire team, we're working with them to really roll out our global, coin offering in terms of Wealthy. And just on a complete side note, David Orban was actually the very first person on the planet to own Ether. Not for very long, but he was the very first person when Ether came out to actually own it. So he's been in the ecosystem for a very long time. We're aware of over 10 different real estate ICOs at the moment. What's fascinating for me is that, property's already gone to market. I see I've got 13.7 there. It's actually up to $14.2 million today. What's fascinating for me is that most of them are just proof of concepts. They literally are white papers based in one country with a team that promises to change the world. And what I find really interesting is that, even with a white paper and with a dream, this company's already been able to raise $14.24 million. And yet when you consider what we've built, we're in 100 countries. We've got investors from 40 countries. We've had $62.4 million go through the platform. We've done over 1,300 transactions, all on the blockchain. That's an average transaction size of $47,000. That's our project fee. We've got a team of 50 people that are distributed across 5 different continents. I've already mentioned the 70% reinvestment rate, and we've paid out over $3.4 million in dividends. And, for me, ICOs make sense, cryptocurrencies make sense, white papers make sense. But having been an entrepreneur for more than 15 years, execution is the most important thing. and understanding the different markets, getting access to good opportunities, understanding the fundamentals, understanding how to find good partners, and then marrying that together with technology is really where the opportunity lies here. And so we wanted to share with you the opportunity. Something we are deeply passionate and very excited about is that there's a Harvard study done where they studied Uber, Airbnb, and Etsy, and there was phase one. And in phase one, it was all about supply. So in Uber's case, they had Uber Black. In Airbnb's case, they got some of the best apartments in Manhattan. And then they moved to phase two, where it all became around the rather than the supply, but the demand. And the demand became about digital marketing and then also marketplace rollout. And that's why Uber went from city to city and ultimately country to country, and so did Airbnb. And so from our perspective, we've been there, done that, got the T-shirt, and now we're quite excited to be rolling out these solutions into multiple markets. And so we'll be arriving in the UK. I land on Monday morning, and we're going to be hosting 2 events in London. We're there for the whole week, but we're hosting 2 events. One is on the evening of the 12th of September, which is next Tuesday. We're going to be focusing on technology, real estate, and the $13 trillion opportunity. Now, this is by invite only. It really is an exclusive event to understand exponential technologies. And like I said to you, Willem van der Post will be one of our keynote speakers there. I will be bringing the whole real estate property angle and where that $13 trillion opportunity lies. I'm hoping that Ishmael from the ICO magazine will be there. He believes that more than 50% of all blockchain-related advances will be in the real estate space. Is what he explained to me tonight. And then, some of our other guests that I'm going to speak of. And then on the 14th of September, that's going to be a pure focus on real estate investing. So that's if you want to become a real estate investor and or are an intermediate real estate investor and or want to become a sophisticated real estate investor, and you want to use technology to enhance your investing, whether that's locally in England or whether you want to expand and diversify across Australia, England, and America. And so 2 very distinct and different types of events. Then in Dubai, we're only hosting 1 event. We're doing it with SABCO, which is the South African business organization. I don't know what SABCO stands for exactly. I was a member of the South African Business Club in London for many, many years. Like I said, I was there for 9 years. And there we'll be marrying together again technology, real estate, and the $13 trillion opportunity. We've also got a guest speaker, James Painter, that I've worked with for more than 10 years and is really an expert in currencies and helping people forecast where currencies are going. So whether that's the rand to the dollar or the dirham to the pound, and possibly even the cryptocurrencies. But that'll be an event on Tuesday evening, the 19th of September. We do then have events around America. So for those of you who have friends in America and you want to let them know, we've got a number of events around America. In South Africa, we've got a roadshow in South Africa, which will be the last week in October, first week in November. And we're actually partnering with Easy Equities there. So it'll be equities, real estate, and cryptos and how to create wealth with technology. We'll also be having our wealth partner dinners in those different venues. Just for the record, that date is wrong. I apologize. It's the 4th of November in Johannesburg and Midrand. And then lastly, in Australia, we'll be doing the events on the 14th and 16th of November, equally in those areas. So we really just wanted to share with people this opportunity. We're going out there, and after this, it'll be China and a number of countries in Southeast Asia. And what's important, though, is that just some of the guest speakers who are going to be there. Willem van der Post is the former managing partner of Deloitte and the Center for the Edge, which is their exponential technology area. He recently went on his own. He pretty much said he's tired of watching so many other exponential tech entrepreneurs and decided to get involved himself. He's the founder of the Exponential Technology Institute, which is teaching corporates and also now kids, the future of exponential technologies. He's collaborating with Salam Ishmael on Africa exponential organizations. He's the CEO of X-Tech Capital, which is a VC for exponential financial technologies. He's a crypto enthusiast. I love learning from him around the arbitrage in cryptos. He's a board advisor to Wealth Migrate, and he's also a Singularity University alumni. So he'll be there as our keynote speaker, specifically on the 12th of September in England, in London. And then the other person who is Paul Nadira. Now, he basically became the CEO of ASOP, which is the oldest equity crowdfunding platform in the world, and it was in Australia, which is one of the most regulated environments in the world. because of that experience, he became the global authority in fintech, crowdfunding, and blockchain. He's also the global authority in compliance in this technology area. When the SEC and others, needed his help to bring in regulation, they actually flew him in to really, help with it. He now he's the CEO of Wealth Migrate in Australia and also a board member. And what's fascinating is on the 11th of September in London, he's been invited by Barry Sherman for the Westminster Crowdfunding Forum to come and actually present in Parliament on the future of technology, fintech, and how this can all come together. So there are two guests that weren't able to be here tonight, but we look forward to sharing them with you in London. And then I really wanted to introduce, I know Ken, you're online, and Arthur is also online. I'm not sure if Lauren is there, but I've been doing property in England since 2002. I've lived in London since 1999, and really I've had the pleasure and the experience of dealing with some of the best, biggest, and baddest, I suppose would be one of the ways of putting it, property people in England. And through the years, it's really been one of those things where we consistently have got better and better at choosing partners. And it's with a huge amount of humility and gratitude that I wanted to introduce all three of them, Ken, Arthur, and Lauren, who are going to be heading up our UK team on the ground. And two things that they will be really focusing on. One is making sure that we partnering with the best partners on the ground in the UK to bring us world-class opportunities. And secondly, making sure that we're building a platform which not only is compliant within the UK regulatory environment, but provides a very good solution to not only global investors, but also local UK investors to get access to those world-class opportunities. So without further ado, I just wanted to welcome, and maybe if you could just say how's it, and why you guys are happy and why you want to be part of this, and what you think people can expect next week.
Thanks, Scott, and good evening, everyone. It's Ken Williams here. Just a brief word on my background. I've worked in investment banking in the UK since 2000. Started my career in South Africa in 1992 as a graduate with Unilever. Over this period, I've been involved in a wide spectrum of financial services within 14 emerging markets while working out of London. I currently have 6 directorships and/or advisory positions, from an African investment bank to a property partnership in the southeast of England. I only elaborate here as it demonstrates that I spent a vast majority of
Kevin, we've lost Ken. Is it just on my side or is it on his side?
No, it seems like we've lost Ken.
So much so, I've invested both in the group and become a wealth partner, but I'm now formally engaged with the business as well to participate in the rollout in the UK with them. So we're very excited to kick off in the UK and look forward to diligently contesting this market as we go forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ken. And from your perspective, Arthur, you and I have also known each other. So Ken and Lauren are good friends with one of our board members, and I've personally been on the ground and actually witnessed what they're doing and met them and been to their lovely home in London. Arthur and I have known each other for more than 10 years in terms of helping people invest into UK real estate. Arthur, from your perspective, we've always spoken about a very old, archaic industry and how technology could improve it. What are your thoughts? I think you always thought I was mad, and we might have finally got to that moment.
Well, Scott, I can only say that, yes, correct. We did have that conversation probably about 8 years ago. And I can only congratulate you, as I said to you, to have had that dream, to have had that vision, and now be putting it into practice is a major achievement. So I'm very excited to be on board. I'm really looking forward to bringing some world-class opportunities to the platform for the investors. I've been in the UK property market for the best part of 16 years now. Been in the global property market to 25 years. So yeah, just very happy to be part of the team, and looking forward to helping out the investors.
Awesome. From Ken, I'm not sure if Lauren is with you.
Absolutely, she's here.
So I wanted to move over to Lauren. And Lauren, you had an interesting experience with Arthur where we invited you out to a wealth weekend, and then we spent 3 days lifting up the bonnet and you guys kind of going into the engine room and trying to understand the due diligence and everything. I think, at some level, people will go online, they'll look at the platform, and they'll think, oh, well, there's only one property or two properties or three properties. Like, what do these guys actually know what they're doing? If they're lucky enough to find one property, they put it on the website, and they hope that some idiot comes along and wants to invest in it. Give us your experience with your expertise, and please just explain it a little bit, but equally of the level of due diligence and how important quality and safety is.
Thanks, Scott. And yes, it's an immense privilege to be part of the group. And as we have discussed many times, I'm absolutely passionate about property, and I'm absolutely passionate about finding the very best properties for clients. And I've made that my ambition over the last sort of 6 years, and have really grown a very successful business here in the UK. And I'm really excited to be partnering with Wealth Migrate in what I think is a truly phenomenal opportunity. I came back from the Wealth Partner weekend, and I said to Ken, this is something we've got to be involved in. It is just amazing how fast this organization is moving, but also the care and the quality and the depth of evaluation that goes into each and every property that they put up on the platform. And I think that, is really indicative of the type of company that it is, and very sort of customer focused and investor focused. And I think that's what makes it unique. So, for me to be able to be part of this is truly something special. And I think we're very excited about the UK, very excited about the opportunity that property offers in the UK to investors. As I said, I'm passionate about property, and having been in this business for well over 10 years myself, I personally know the immense rewards that property can give you in terms of investment, certainly in the residential buy-to-let sector. So, yeah, excited to be on board, and looking forward to the launch.
Awesome. So, guys, what's fascinating for me in England, I was there with all of you, and I think March was my last time I was there. And something I picked up when I spent time with people on the streets and my friends, I got a lot of friends there, played rugby there for 9 years, and I found there were only two types of people in England. There were those that were pissed off that they didn't buy property, and there were those that were pissed off that they didn't buy more property. And, for me, many of the challenges of property, and not only the understanding, but the cash flow, and getting a mortgage, and making sure you get a good tenant, and how do you find a good property, and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of hassle involved in that as well, and a lot of experience. And what I love now is that through the platform, people are going to get access to you guys, and through your networks, get access to the broader networks of the best partners in the UK, and literally be able to invest from as little as £1,000 and be able to participate in that market. And that doesn't necessarily mean going and buying an off-plan development from a new developer. That means actually getting involved in real value, so that not only is it done in a safe way, but it also has the potential for upside, versus kind of the developer just walking away with a profit. So I wanted to just share, I know that Lee wanted to be online tonight and can't be because she's on an airplane back to Dubai. But we're going to be doing, on the 19th of September, we're going to be doing a similar event in Dubai. The only difference there is that James Painter will be joining us online. And like I mentioned already, he really specializes in forecasting. And then with Lee and Derek on the ground, we will be offering the same insights into this tremendous opportunity of an old, archaic $13 trillion industry getting disrupted by technology, and the opportunity that it really presents. And so I wanted to leave you with a couple of thoughts, and then we want to go into a bit of a Q&A. But this is a picture of my wife and son, and I tend to say to people at a very young age, my son is learning, that to own red houses and green hotels and to get paid a passive income is what we call smart investing. His father always had a dream of playing global monopoly and really turning it into a reality. And now with an amazing team and the ability of technology, they really have turned that game into a reality. This is my personal portfolio, a mixture of residential and commercial opportunities across England, Australia, America, and South Africa. And, you know, for me, sometimes investing in those deals with as little as $100. And, you know, this is truly about diversification across countries, currencies, and asset classes. And it's what we call smart investing. When you look at the wealthiest people on the planet, what we refer to as the top 1%, you know, they have what's called family offices. And family offices get very specific and very bespoke to what are their needs. They then look at the global opportunities, they marry the two together, and it helps them create generational wealth. And it's what we call smart investing. And really what our mission is to put smart investing in every single person's pocket. And one of the enablers that's going to allow that to happen is the Wealthy Coin, which, you know, we will be sharing a lot more next week in terms of what's happening. So it's with a huge amount of excitement that we'll be coming back to the UK and really sharing, spending more than a week there with Ken and Arthur and Lauren on the ground. And really, you can go to, there's two different websites there. So if you go to this one here, where you've got uk.wealthmigrate.com, you can read about the technology event, which is on the Tuesday evening, or the more real estate event focused on the Thursday evening, where we'll be really kind of going deep dive into the due diligence, how the due diligence process works, and, you know, even introducing some of the concepts and ideas of where people can invest. And then in Dubai, you know, you can see that, and that's the 19th of September. If you do want to speak to Kevin, you know, Kevin is my partner who's been online, and I'd love Kevin to just jump in, but, you know, you can see there's Kevin's email and also his mobile number if you need to reach out to him. You've got all our different social media. But, you know, I tend to say to people, you know, start your journey, you know, come and understand crypto, understand technology, understand where the world is going globally, and, you know, really have the ability to co-create. And, you know, the one thing I always say to people is that maybe one day you'll look back on this moment, and it could be a Robert Wayne, you know, conversation, or it might not be. And what I mean by that is that you know, I guarantee you that 5 years from now you'll look back on this moment and you'll either say, wow, I'm really glad I went along to that event and learned more and got involved. Because when technology comes to an area, when it disrupts an area, there's only two types of people. There's the winners and there's the losers. And really the question you get to choose is, which side of the fence do you want to be on? And or you can you know, be the Robert Wayne that says, this is not for me, I'll sit on the fence and I'll watch, and you know, I suppose only time will tell. So from your side, Kevin, is there anything that I've forgotten that is important to mention with regards to the events that you've planned and everything for next week?
Scott, no, I don't think there is anything else. Just ultimately, what I am going to quickly do for everybody is in the chat box, I am going to be putting the links to the three events. And if you're watching this online after the event, we will put them in the comment box, in the description box below the video, so that you can get easy access to those URLs. So I'll quickly be doing that. Otherwise, I know that Ken had two questions that he had people ask. So maybe, Ken, if we can go over to those questions.
Yes. First question is, how regularly, if someone invested in the portfolio and diversified within that portfolio, how regularly would their portfolio be valued or revalued?
If I understand it correctly, please understand again that this is not a fund of funds. So the idea, you know, really is that when you invest, there's two types of opportunities. One is a growth opportunity, which is where it tends to be a new development. And then the other one is an income opportunity, where it's an existing building with an existing tenant and an existing rent roll. And so to answer your question, Ken, the way that it's worked in the past is that, you know, when people invest, the only time you're obviously getting your cash on cash returns, you know, on a quarterly basis. And the only time the actual calculations on return are finalized is when you actually sell it. This is not a financial instrument where we pay a valuer to go out and give us a nice valuation and then take a lot of fees in the process. Saying all of that, though, we are building a secondary market, and therefore, you know, we would need to, you know, get a formal valuation that if people wanted, we're beta testing a buy-sell button, that if people wanted to effectively, sell their position or buy into a position, it would need to be based on some sort of validation. My gut feel from a cost perspective is that at the moment wouldn't happen more than annually. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be down to willing buyer, willing seller, which is, for me, the most transparent economic metric there is.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Just another question I had, which you may be able to inform for us, is just the valuation of the group. And it's clear here that clearly people are able to invest in property, and they're able to do that at a very low entry point into very specifically chosen securitized investments. And with that, you are significantly increasing the demographic of who can participate. The other side of this is that there may be a bunch of people who are interested in actually investing in the company itself, the Wealth Migrate group. And for a number, the question was, for 100,000, how much does that buy me in the group? Now you can value this group, from an NAV perspective, but it's a technology company which is going to use revenue multiples and things like that. How would you best answer that question?
The best way to answer that question was that if someone's interested in that, it's interesting. When Henny and I started the business, we invested all our own money to get it going, and then we started in 2010, and by 2014 we were investing quite a lot in the technology, and we were growing globally, and it was really, if we wanted to take advantage of the exponential opportunity, we needed to scale. And what was fascinating is that at the same time our investors were coming in and saying, hey, we really like this medical building, or we really like this single family residential, but we actually want to invest in the platform as well. And they were like, how do you invest in the platform? And I was like, well, you can't. There's no solution. And what was interesting is there was a need, to take the business to the next level. There was a demand from the clientele, and the third part of the puzzle was I read that book by Mark Benioff, Behind the Cloud, and his whole philosophy that he had with Salesforce. And so we really launched our wealth partner concept, and that allowed people to invest in the platform and ultimately for us to build an ecosystem. And I'm truly grateful today. We've got over 113 wealth partners from around the world. And my thing that I would say to you, Ken, is that if people are interested, it's a far better conversation to have on Tuesday evening. I'm going to take you in a lot more detail through some of the comparables in the market in terms of both local opportunities, both in England, America, Singapore, where's some of the other ones? Anyway, a whole bunch of platforms. There's the discounted cash flow model, there's market comparables, there's right down to the opportunity and how the wealth partner concept works. And really for me, the principle comes down to one thing. If it's all about the numbers, then we are not the right person to come and speak to. So if you're interested in like just 100% NAV or EBITDA, then this is not an opportunity for you. If you're interested in exponential technologies, in communities, in the value one can be in terms of being part of a world-class community, if you're interested in the wealth that can be created by not only digitizing and revolutionizing an industry, but solving one of the greatest challenges on the planet, then certainly it's something for people. And lastly, if you want to have a purposeful impact on the planet, then it certainly is something that people should look for. And to date, it's been very much it's a bit like a golf club. We've been very specific on who could get into being a wealth partner, and the idea behind it was that we want to build a world-class community. And I know it's a very long answer to your short question, but in many ways I want people to be part of the experience on Tuesday night in a live environment. We get to meet them, they get to meet us, and we can make a mutual agreement as to whether it's right or wrong for them and for us.
Thanks very much, Scott. That's great.
Great. Thanks, Ken. So I did just want to just open up to everybody who's been listening tonight. If there are any further questions that you may have with regards to Wealth Migrate, as well as the events that we're going to be hosting in London and Dubai, please do ask those. As Scott has said, a lot of the answers we'd really like to give to you live in person, as that it's a much easier conversation or better conversation to have. But if there are any further questions before I go and look through those questions that have been asked already, so please do just add those to the chat, to the question box, and we can answer those for you. In terms of the question here around the, what is happening, but what is the difference between the two events exactly? I'm saying here I'm interested in the real estate. Which event should I attend, or could I attend both? Scott, I don't know if you want to answer that.
Yeah, look, so in simple terms, the focus on Tuesday night is more around technology, exponential technology, and the $13 trillion disruption in real estate. It's about the platform, and it's really what the question that Ken asked around the opportunity to necessarily be involved in the platform and the bigger picture. And that is really, it's a VIP, by invite only. And then on Thursday night, it's focusing on real estate and how technology can enable real estate investors to invest. There'll be far more focus on the real estate perspective, on the due diligence, and how technology can enhance the entire process. And that really is for anyone that wants to be a real estate investor. And hopefully in England, there's a lot of people, I know because I lived there for a long time, that can get started with £1,000 and don't have to wait now till they're 45 to save a deposit for their first property.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, Scott. Sarah says here, you've glanced over a number of topics. Are you going to go in more depth during the event, or should I ask questions now?
Yeah, so I think the purpose of tonight was just to give people an overview of what they can expect. I would recommend people come along live. There's another question here, and I'm going to answer two of them at the same time, where someone asked, well, if you're an exponential company, why are you doing live events? And in simple terms, for us, particularly when you're getting going in a market and we've got our local partners on the ground, it allows us to really kind of get a feel to have conversations with people, to understand if they've got concerns, and if we need to tweak things or understand the message. It really, so it's a two-way process from a value transfer perspective. And to come back to your question, really, Kevin, from my perspective, we could stay all night answering questions. My request would be that we really focus in detail on those two events. We will record them, and then we will obviously have many webinars going forward that I look forward to. But there's a reason we're investing a whole week to come over and be on the ground and spend time in London, not only because I love it, and not only because the team on the ground is I'm very excited about the future in the UK and what they can bring to the market, but it's also so we can have real one-to-one conversations with people.
Yeah, Scott, there's just another one here from Peter who just says, if will we be able to have discussions outside of the events?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question. What do you mean by that? So I get into trouble all the time for being very social. So we're on all the social media platforms. We use WhatsApp a lot. So we've got different groups on different topics, whether it's cryptocurrency, exponential technologies. We've got a digital buyers group, which is all about digital real estate. I'm answering your question, Kevin. I don't know exactly what it means by discussions outside of the event.
He's saying, he's saying, will you be available for meetings with people who can't make the event?
Yeah, so look, the focus is the event. I think really, the way I would answer that is that Ken, who with Lauren and Arthur, are going to be trying to make sure that time is as effective as possible. We will be having one-to-one meetings. We've got a number of institutional meetings. If it's property related, really Arthur, Lauren, specifically with Ken, have a huge amount of experience, and they have they've got a huge amount of experience with the ability to make decisions, on that. So, my request would be if people do want to have one-to-one meetings, then maybe they should reach out to you, Kevin, and between yourself and Ken, you can make decisions. But my request would be, it's less about having one-to-one meetings and more about coming together, enjoying the experience, getting a feel for how we do things, and enjoying the events. And I'm sorry to say, but one of the things that, no, I'm not sorry to say actually, one of the things I love doing is having fun. And after the event, we can have a beer and get to know each other better, which is always more fun than doing it on our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
A question here from Sean. It's more of a comment actually, but he also said one of the things that a lot of people have liked is the fact that kids can invest. So, under 18s can invest now, and that really also changes the rules of the game. All our children are growing up in a very different world now. So not only can they get the entrepreneurial training, they can get exposure to exponential technologies. I know that most of the children in the Wealth Partner community it's really changing people's lives, which is something I'm deeply grateful for. And equally, they can invest and learn while doing, versus buying some silly toy that they're not needed.
Absolutely, Scott. So I believe we've gone through everything that's been asked so far. If there are any other questions from the people that are still online, please do put those in now. Otherwise, Scott, I think it's potentially just to say thank you to everyone who's been online. Next week I can't believe that the time has moved so quickly, and that we're going to be over. We really look forward to seeing as many people as we can at the events, and sharing what Wealth Migrate are doing, both from an exponential technology point of view, as well as in the property real estate space, and democratizing access to real estate, therefore being able to reach that massive transformative purpose of reducing the wealth gap.
And I think from my side, Kevin, just to share with people as well, anyone that goes on the platform and signs up, they actually will go in the draw to win an apartment in the tallest building in Cape Town. Cape Town was recently voted the most beautiful city in the world to go on holiday. And I had a great friend of mine from university that said to me, "What's the catch?" And I very clearly answered him. I said, "There's no catch. Why did Uber give you a free voucher, in terms of, when they came out?" And the reason being is that once you had caught an Uber taxi, or an Uber car, you didn't actually want to go back to the old hassle of trying to wag down a taxi in the street in the middle of the rain. And for us, it's very much the same thing. We believe that technology is digitally disrupting and changing the world. It's going to change the way people invest. It's going to enable them to invest like the top 1%, to get that freedom in their lives, to make the decisions that they want for them and themselves and their families. And I really ask everyone online tonight, not only to necessarily come along and be part of this yourself, but spread the word and let other people know. I believe we all have a responsibility to let people know now that there's a better way of doing things on the planet. There's a better way of investing, and ultimately we can all, collaborate and create a better and more sustainable planet for all. So I think it's all of our responsibility to spread the word and let people know about the events. We're not making money out of the events. That's not our intention. Our intention is to share and to educate people so that they are empowered and can make decisions for themselves. So, from my side, I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's online. We've got people from all different time zones. We did try something tonight where we're doing 2 webinars, one early and one later, to see which suits people in different time zones. For those of you in the UK and Dubai, we really look forward to seeing you. To Ken, Arthur and Lauren, it's awesome to have you online tonight, but more importantly, I'm super excited about next week and really kind of getting the UK going in a proper way. And as always, to Kevin, from your side, thank you for putting this all together and enabling people to get access to these opportunities. Without you, they would be reading about it in the newspapers, but they wouldn't be able to access it themselves. So thank you to all of you. It's a deep, deep honor and a privilege to be part of it.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much, Scott, and thanks to everyone who's been online.
Thanks very much.
Good night.
Good night.